Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Y'all are enjoying these last few videos of me looking like, a fox. Let's just go for it, right? Because it's gonna be weeks again until I put this much makeup on, don't get used to it, is what I'm saying. No. I also like to look at myself too much. I mean, who doesn't? Okay. I know we say it's tough to look at yourself when you like to film videos, but for me at least, it is a little bit part of my small bit of narcissism that I have. I don't have a lot, but I do sometimes. And she really comes out to play when I go the full court press with the hair and the lips and the eyes and everything. And then I'm just like, ooh, who's that beautiful girl staring at me in my camera? I don't know what this just was. I don't know if I'll keep that in. We'll see. But anyway, welcome to my channel, everybody. And today we are doing what I love to call random spicy book recs, okay? I say spicy because that's the word that the internet likes. I mean, they're just romances with open door sex scenes. They're not necessarily, this isn't the most erotic ones I've ever done. These aren't the spiciest ones I've ever done. They got spice, okay? They exist. Every one of these, we get our pants off at some point, okay? All right? Or a loincloth, as is the case for some of them, all right? But the algorithm likes certain words, so we're using them, okay? So for this one, though, I truly wanted it to be random, okay? Nothing is completely random because it's still me making the decision. But I just picked 10 books off my shelf, and I'm going to talk about them. I mean, the way that it is, planned is, they're all books that I love. I didn't pick any that I don't like. But some of them are pretty old. I don't even fully remember the details of them, so we're going to remember it together. But others are some that I absolutely adore, and I was like, you know what, I haven't talked about that enough lately, so let's do it. So I have 10 random recommendations for you. There'll be links to every one of them down below, so you can purchase them for yourself or borrow them from Kindle Unlimited, or in the case of one of them, go get it from AO3, because I do have a fanfic in here as well that you cannot buy a copy of, right? Don't buy fanfics. Don't do it. So let's get started with one that I kind of wanted to make a video around anyway, because I did just buy it. So I guess this one isn't as completely random, but it is a book that used to feature on my channel quite a bit if you go way back when, which I don't encourage you to go way back when, but I did way back when read this book so many times. I just love it. And it recently got re-released, and it is gorgeous, okay? Because the original cover of this book, it was not gorgeous. Okay, I'll show it to you. It was not gorgeous. But this new cover, literal fire. There's literally fire on it, okay? So enough of that. It is For Real by Alexis Hall, okay? This book popped my cherry in so many ways. Okay, it didn't pop it, but it was soon after, okay? This is one of the first MMs that I read in the very beginning. It is also one of the very first, I think Pam Godwin is first. That's who I always say is first. But one of the very first books, too, that use, BDSM in a healing manner. And I loved that. There's also safe word usage in this one, I believe, too. And it wowed me. It was the first Alexis Hall that I'd heard of. And wow, what has he become these days, right? That's why all these books are getting redone. So this one, it's part 3 of a Spire series, but a lot of people read this as a standalone. I actually tried to read the other books in the Spire series years ago, and they didn't work for me. Maybe I should try them again now, but I definitely want to reread this one for sure. So For Real is about Lawrence Dalziel. I think he actually put how to pronounce it right here. It is Dalziel, yes. And he is a washed up, worn out submissive. He is, I think in his 40s or late 30s, I can't remember, but he recently, he's pushing 40. He, a couple years back, got out of a relationship with a long-term partner who was his dom and his lover, and he hasn't gotten over it yet. So he still goes to the sex club and some parties, and he'll be a submissive to different people, so he'll bottom is what we say. He isn't fully anyone submissive. He is just very worn out with the world, but it's still something that he craves. I mean, that's still the kind of sex that he wants to have. That's what he desires, but he is missing the spark for it, right? And I find that fascinating about this book, that he's just kind of like tired of BDSM, you know? I don't know. But then enters Toby. And so Toby doesn't know who he wants to be or what he wants to do, but he knows that he's gay, he knows that he's a top, and he wants to learn more about it. But one of the things he says, so he goes to this sex club, he's only 19, and he goes to this sex club, and the thing that he's learned is that it's tough to be able to be a dom or a top when no one will let you practice. And I found that fascinating in this too, right? Because you do need to be careful in BDSM. You can't just, you know, be going wild with it when you aren't like trained and learned in it. But he also hasn't had the safe place or the people to practice with. And so he gets into this sex club because he wants to practice doming, and he wants to go to a place where nobody knows him so he can do this. And Lori and his friends kind of zone in on this guy right away, and they're like, look at that fetus over there, that they say, this infant who's here, what is he doing? And so Lori decides to walk up and be like, hey honey, you just shouldn't be here, you shouldn't do this. And right away Toby's like, I'm not a sub, because he's like, you should be careful, you don't know, someone might find you here. And he's like, no, I'm a top and I want to top someone. And Lori's kind of like, okay, all right. And after some discussion, Lori ends up inviting Toby back to his house. And here's the thing though too, is because Lori just doesn't care anymore, he's willing to let this kid like practice on him. Which, I mean, they have safe words. He's gonna say, you know, he'll tap out if it's bad, but he's willing to let this person practice on him. And what surprises Lori so much is how intense this interaction with Toby is. It's crazy, the connection they have and how much this, you know, young whippersnapper makes him feel is kind of the thing. He's like, whoa, I don't know what I'm feeling here. And it scares him, the intensity of this. So he actually kind of like kicks him out, which I won't go step by step through this book, but like Lori doesn't allow for any aftercare. Not only does he not allow Toby to give him aftercare, which he should, he doesn't give Toby any. And that is something I really liked about this book. And I have yet to find it happen much since, is we forget that tops and doms need aftercare too. Sometimes they need it even more, because especially if they're new or it's a very intense scene, they want to make sure that they didn't hurt their partner, that it was good what they did, that what they ordered this person to do and how they treated them like was a-okay, and that it was all good. And if you like don't do that, you can cause dom drop in the same way sub drop can happen. And I just really love how Toby like calls him out on that. So that's the beginning of their relationship. And you know, Lori, because he doesn't have anything else really going in his life sexually, he kind of decides to allow them to kind of, I don't know how to say this, like he's willing to like train Toby to be a top, right? And so I also love that we have the bottom training the top kind of scenarios too. So, but there's also like switching in their relationship. Like one of their first sexual experiences, like Lori tops Toby for sexual position wise anyway. But it is fascinating. Like this book has so many complex things, and if you are a fan of BDSM and you've never read this book, I don't know what you're doing. Like I don't know what you're doing, because it has stuck with me. When did I first read this? When did this come out? I think I read this like 6 years ago is when I read this book. Yeah, I read this 6 years ago, and it has always stuck with me. Like I said, if you go way back in my videos, I talk about this in I think my first ever rec video that I made. That's how old this is. So I'm so happy it has second life, and I need to put this on my TBR for, maybe I'll put it on for August or September, because I want to reread this so badly and see, you know, if I still get those feelings. There's also just like, there's so much goodness with this book. So there we go. I talked long enough about that one. We'll try not to do it for all of these. All right, like I said, we're just going randomly. So next up we have a historical. This is Joss and the Countess by S.M. LaViolette, aka Minerva Spencer. Okay, S.M. LaViolette is her more like spicy / like rougher historical romance one. And this is actually book 2 in the Seducer series. But the first one, Melissa and the Vicar, does have some like religious trauma in it and stuff, so not everyone's comfortable with that one, but it is a really good one, and it does have a like virgin hero in that one. In this one, this is a reverse age gap. Our heroine is a widowed countess, and she wants to find a really competent lover, but her late night adventures will require her to take a bodyguard with her. So she hires Joss Gromley. Now, the thing about Joss is that he actually used to be a prostitute or sex worker himself. And so he's definitely comfortable enough going to these different liaisons with her. But it becomes very clear that he's very attracted to her and that he doesn't want her to be seeing other men. He wants it to be with him. And so he never intended to be anything but her faithful servant, but she ends up inviting him into her bed, and so he's her servant during the day, and he dominates her at night. Yes, we get pretty spicy with this one. So this is a series that I love. The covers are not these beautiful covers anymore. I'm sad to say. She's changed these covers like 6 times, but this is my like favorite cover. So the first one, as I said, is Melissa and the Vicar, but Joss and the Countess is so good. And like, as I will say again and again, not enough people read S.M. LaViolette, and it is a crime. It's a crime, y'all. You should be reading her. Just saying, you should be doing it. Okay, then we have another kind of hidden gem from an author that I love, and that is Claimed by the Alien Warrior by Tiffany Roberts. So this one is a standalone from them. They do have quite a few books that are standalone ones for them, but they also have a lot of series that can be intimidating for people. But this one is, we have an otherworldly warrior, and he wants to escape Earth. Like, he's crash landed on Earth. He doesn't want to be there. And in the beginning, he's captured and is like going to be like, you know, experimented on by the government, and he's able to escape, but he needs to get back to his spaceship. And so he ends up kind of kidnapping / like commandeering Zoe and her vehicle. And he wants to get her to drive him where he needs to go. So he's going to kidnap her. Now, Zoe happens to have everything she owns in her car. She recently has just broken up with her boyfriend. And then this 4-armed man is trying to force her to help him escape. And on their trip, they are going to fall in love while they do. I have so much smutty, fun art of these two because I have... I'm a part of their Patreon, and I just have tons of smutty art. It's so good. He has, I think he's a double-dicked one. Is he double-dicked, or is it just, he might not be double-dicked, but he's got a special dick, we'll just say. So yeah, this one's great. It's a standalone. Not a ton of alien romance is standalone as it is, but because it is Rob and Tiffany, there's still a very sweet relationship between these two. And if you're fans of Zoe Draven, or you're fans of, let's say, like the Clickanian series or stuff like that, you may love this one a whole bunch. If you like human-alien pairings, that's a great one. All right, then we have another way throwback one that I love to throw into a video now and then because I feel like it doesn't get talked about enough, and I just fucking love this book. I've only read a couple books that are like it. So part of the reason I also bring it up every now and then is I like to see if anyone's read anything like it. I know that's weird, but you know me, I'm always hungry for Rex too. Okay, I'm hungry for the Rex. And so this book has a very specific scenario that I've only read, I think, 2 other times before. It's very hard to find because it usually... Well, I'll explain it, but it's usually a part of like a reverse harem situation or an MMF situation. It very rarely is an MF pairing. So I have Our Way by T.L. Swan. Yes, this is a chunker here. And this is a friends to lovers, straight for you romance. Or, I mean, it's bisexual, but it sounds cool to switch it because usually you say gay for you romance or whatever. But to me, it's straight for you because this hero has never been attracted to other women. He's only attracted to our heroine. So he would actually be, you know, as we read it, he ends up being like pansexual, ends up being the label that he decides fits him best. But these are friends. in the beginning, he sees himself as gay. He's only been with men. He's a doctor. She actually is, I think she's a nurse at his hospital. I don't know, but they meet when she moves there. His name is Nathan. Her name is Izzy. I think is her name. Lizzie. Is it Lizzie? Eliza. Her name is Eliza. And they meet, and she actually has a huge crush on him, and then she discovers that he's gay, and he ends up becoming her gay best friend. Absolutely. In fact, so much so that, like, they go on vacations together, they stay at each other's house, they share a bed with each other sometimes, but he has only dated men. And then after a couple of, like, they both are single at this time, and all of a sudden, he really starts to feel more for her than just as a friend. And so it leads to this journey of them both being very confused, her being afraid that she will just be like a one-time sampling for him and it will destroy this beautiful relationship they have. He's also worried about that too. He's also like, what's happening? Why am I feeling this way? And so there are a lot of things that I looked at in this. It's messy. We're not going to say this is a perfect story, but I loved it because of the pansexual element to it, which again, Nathan doesn't want to be labeled. He just wants to love who he wants to love. We're all about that here. We're all about that here. Love it. But I also like how it's looked at where he falls in love with her, not with her genitals, not with anything else. Like, he falls in love with her because she's been there for him and she is a comforting presence in his life and they love each other. And I like that. Now, it's still messy. It's still TL Swan. There's lots of yelling at each other, lots of fighting, lots of making up. But I found it to be very powerful and beautiful. So what the scenario is I'm talking about, right, is that gay for you type of scenario, which again, I've seen it where it's like bisexual. So, you know, maybe they've always dated men, but now they're dating women, but they've always been bisexual, or vice versa. Like, that's fine. It's fine. But I just think it's an extra special niche thing when you have thought you were gay and then you fall in love with the other sex, and it just is like, whoa. And I think it's cool because it's the same way going the other way, right? If you think you're straight and then you have a bi awakening that way. In a way, this is also a bi awakening to him because he has only dated men and now he's attracted to women. So it's like he was gay and now he's bi. So it's like, right? It's going the other way, you know? Anyway, I don't know if I'm explaining it. I've only read 2 other books that did this, and one of them was good, another one was not good. Like, there's a Ashley Jade that does this, and I didn't care for it at all. Like, there's a trilogy that does this where, like, she'd only been with women, and then she gets with her enemy, and it just felt, that one, it felt kind of icky, because it felt like it felt like they were talking about, like, flip. Anyway, it felt like he had flipped his enemy or something like that, and that he'd, like, won her away from, I think, like, his ex-girlfriend or something. I don't know. It was messy, and I didn't care for it at all. But another one I read, which I can't remember the name of the author, but it was actually suggested to me by, like, Amara Ray when I interviewed her. Amara Ray, if you ever see this, I miss you. Come back and write me a book, please. But it was also, like, he's a billionaire, and he is gay, but he has liked her for a while. He's just doesn't want to make a move on her until he knows she'll be ready to hear it, because he doesn't want her to think that he would bang her and leave her. And I loved that one too. The story wasn't perfect, but I loved their romantic relationship in it so well. So if you've read any that are like an opposite by awakening, please leave it down below. But not one where it's going to be an MMF. Like, I love those. Like, I have read some where there's been, like, a bisexual and a gay man together and they fall for a woman and then they all fall. Like, I've read that. But I want it when it's an MF and it's, like, an opposite gay awakening or bi awakening. So if you've read any of those, please put it down below or put it in my book rec form, but you can leave it down below because I'm always on the lookout for those. And like I said, I can't even make a rec video for it because I've read so few of them. And I would absolutely make an oddly specific review that way because to me, like, love is love, whichever way it's going, man, whichever way it's going, but I love that. Okay, moving on. We have My Favorite Kidnapper by Melanie Moreland, which I just adored. Let me take this out. This is so cute. She actually has a cake recipe in here. But this is about a baker and a billionaire who, he's a little bit dirty. He's a little bit bad there. It's an age gap. it is a kidnapping, but the sweetest kidnapping ever. So the fun story about this one, I'll just tell you, because why not? We're here for it all. Melanie Moreland was going to be writing kind of like a dark mafia tale, actually for one of her, I believe it was her assistant, or her, yeah, it was for Karen, who is one of her assistants there. And she asked for like a kidnapping situation, and it ended up being a comedy. And so she wrote this, told this story, and then she wrote The Men of the Falls, which was what she was trying to write eventually. So this is the story that came out, which is great because this is actually going to be a series. So this is another reason I'm bringing it out. There's going to be My Favorite Boss, I think, is the next one. And they're not like connected, but it's going to be a series. And this, I believe it's actually getting like traditionally published too, which is so cool. Like, how cool is that? We love it. We love it. But anyway, this one, we have our heroine, B, I think is her name, Brianna. And our hero is Dante. And there's actually, I think, his goddaughter's wedding. And she is the baker. And he tastes her cakes and meets her, and he's obsessed. So he ends up kidnapping her, bringing her to his home in a different country, and telling her that he will let her go once she has baked him a cake every day for 30 days, I think it is. And he just, it's ridiculous, but he plans to use this amount of time to win her over because he wants her. He wants to make her his. And he's going to do that by hook or by crook, but also he kidnapped her and he's keeping her, and she's going to realize it eventually. So there's this adorable book. This couple is so cute. We love them. And it was also spicy and fun because it was adorable. So yeah, and she sent a cake recipe with, which is great. I think this is for the Better Than Sex cake. I don't know, but it was great. I got it signed when I went to North Iowa Book Bash. So love it. Definitely check it out. Melanie Moreland is just the sweetest, okay? She is so sweet. Her books are wonderful. You need to read her. Even her dark romance is kind of sweet, right? Okay, then I had to bring one out because The Duke Who Didnt by Courtney Milan is wonderful. Look at this cover. Hello. Can you say stunning? The next one that's coming out is called The Marquis Who Mustn't, and it is actually going to be a book club pick. For me and Crystal, we have the Rake Appreciation Society, which is a historical romance book club, and we're reading The Marquis Who Mustn't. So I thought I would remind everyone about The Duke Who Didnt. This is a just sweet, diverse, delightful historical romance novel. I think it, let me see if it says, okay, 1891. So, I don't think that's still Victorian anymore. Might be Edwardian by then. Not sure. But it's a later set one too. But this is book 1 in the Wedgeford trial. So I'm just going to read the back of this one because it's been a while, but I'll tell you what I loved about it after I read it. So it says, Miss Chloe Fong has plans for her life, lists for her days, and absolutely no room for nonsense. 3 years ago, she told her childhood sweetheart that he could talk to her once he planned to be serious. He disappeared that very night. Except now he's back. Jeremy Wentworth, the Duke of Lansing, has returned to the tiny village he once visited with the hope of wooing Chloe. In his defense, it took him years of attempting to be serious to realize that the endeavor was incompatible with his personality. All he has to do is convince Chloe to make room for a mischievous trickster in her life, then disclose that in all the years they've known each other, he's failed to mention his real name, his title, and the minor fact that he owns her entire village. Only one thing can go wrong. Everything. So yeah, this one does have a bit of comedy to it. It's also funny because I believe like everyone does know that he's the Duke, maybe like except for her, like they've all figured it out over time. And there is a reason why he disappears for years. There's stuff happening in his life, but I love this one. It's a friends to lovers, but also kind of like second chance, childhood sweethearts. And yeah, it was just beautiful and diverse and lovely. And I mean, look at this cover. Just stop it. Stop it. And I can't wait to read The Marquis Who Mustn't. So definitely read this. There's an audiobook for this one. Yes, there's an audiobook for that one. I wish we would get an audiobook put out for the second one, but I'm going to have to read it physically with my eyes, which is just fine. Okay, then we have one that this one is getting a re-release, so I wanted to bring it up. And this is another one that I will read the blurb for with this one. But this one's getting re-released, and I love this cover, so I'm sad it's getting redone. But there is this, The Ruin of Evangeline Jones by Julia Bennett, and it is getting recovered. But this book was originally published back in 2020, and I literally bought it for the cover, okay? So this one, we have Alex Stanton, who inherited a dukedom, but his true passion is uncovering charlatans and frauds. And when he meets spiritualist and medium Evangeline Jones, he knows that she's the biggest fake of all, and he's determined to expose her. Her prim manner and ladylike airs don't fool him. He sees the hunger beneath and recognizes a worthy opponent. He can't deny the dark undercurrents of lust between them. So Evie worked her way out of the gutter, and she's not about to abandon her life she's built for fear of the aristocratic Delante. I don't know. She knows his type. She sees the attraction simmering beneath his animosity, and she knows how to use it to keep him off balance. They strike a bargain. He has 1 week to prove she's a fake. If he fails, he has to abandon all further attempts, and if he succeeds, she'll not only retire but make a public statement. Neither expects to find anything in common, not to mention anything to love in each other. Both are blindsided by the affinity and blossoming tenderness between them, but even if it were possible for a lowly charlatan to live happily ever after with a duke, more is going on than either suspects, and someone else has brought them together for a sinister purpose. So there we go. This one, I remember liking this. I remember liking the suspense, and he does have a reason why he hates charlatans and fakes, and his reasoning for that, I completely get behind. And yeah, there's a lot of intense emotions here. So sorry to tease you with this cover, since I don't think you'll have much luck finding it now, since it is getting recovered. But if you happen to see this, let me see if I remember to insert. If you happen to see this one, remember that it originally looked like this, and it is a spicy good time. So, I mean, and I'm proud of an author for getting re-released like that. So we love to see it. Okay, as promised, I do have a fan fiction to share, and I went way back to the beginning because I wanted to bring up one that I just adore with my whole heart and soul, and it's one of my favorite fanfics I've read even all these years later, and by that I mean like 2.5, almost 3 years since I started reading fanfiction, and it is Safe Word is Devil's Snare by Shea Alani. Yes, and this was bound for me by Mel. Thank you, Mel. I always love showing off your beautiful books. But this artwork is from, sorry, I always forget how to pronounce it. Where'd you put it? I think it's Elviron is the name. Oh, it's not in this one. Mel usually puts them in there, who the artist is. But anyway, this is a lovely little, kind of like forced togetherness. It's not a full-on like forced marriage, but it is kind of like a forced pairing, and this is a Neville and Hermione pairing. Okay, I know, but I love it. Okay, and it has dominant Neville in it. Okay, it is so sexy. So what happens here is there's a significant drop in magical population, and stressed, unspeakable Hermione Granger finds the answer. The Wizengamot threatens a marriage law unless a temporary procreation bill can make them see reason. Fortunately for Hermione, her chosen spouse knows how to work out all of her tension. So what they do is there ends up being this spell that they find that they are able to cast, and it has the person who's your best match like glow. And so I believe the reason this gets brought up is like the people who are at Hogwarts at the same time. So it's like Hermione and Ron and Harry's class. They are kind of the experiments for this test, basically. So they all are there, and we cast this spell, and people start seeing who glows the brightest. So it's actually kind of interesting because in this room, like Harry and her kind of glow to each other, but they're like, ugh. Nothing with Ron, of course, because Ron bashing is a thing in these. And Neville actually isn't there when we're doing this. So people are seeing people glow. Draco actually glows for her a little bit. And now they aren't full-on enemies in this book, but they are like colleagues, and they're just kind of like, ugh, no, between the two of them. So they're like, not going to do it. And so everybody starts pairing up in the room, and Hermione hasn't paired with anyone. And she's like, okay, well, this was just the first round of this. This is the first experiment of this. If it's successful, like, we'll do it again. So I'll find my match later on. Now, when she's leaving, she happens to run into Neville, who has just come back into town and was told that, you know, he's a part of this class. He needs to go there. And he actually is a dark wizard hunter. He's an Auror now. And he shows up and they are like blindingly bright to each other. Like, whoa. And she explains to him what this means and is like, we're a match. And he's like, oh, wow. And I kind of always had a crush on you in school, but you were so into Ron, like I didn't make a move or anything. And so they agree to meet up. And she's been contemplating this. She's like, oh, Neville, you know, she isn't turned off by this. She's like, interesting. And also she knows that the spell knows, right? So she's like, there must be something about him that's going to make this work. And so when they meet up, though, he wants to lay all of his cards out on the table because he's like, if we're, you know, supposed to get married and work on having babies together, I need to tell you about kind of my past since school and like what I'm into. And he shares that he's into BDSM and that it's very important to him in his sexual relationship. And so he's like, I understand if you're not comfortable with it, if you're not into it, then before we go any further, like just know that. And Hermione, she does kind of like not get it to start with. She's like, oh, I don't know if I want someone bossing me around. And Neville's like, well, some powerful women really do enjoy it because of the release it can offer and all these things. And so she's still skeptical, but she agrees because she is feeling the attraction towards him now. And she's like, this could be really good if this works. So she agrees to kind of a testing time between the two of them. And they're going to see if they are compatible this way. And spoiler alert, we become very, very okay with it. So I will put the link to the AO3 of this down below. Again, remember, you cannot buy this one, so don't do it. Don't try to buy it anywhere. But there's a free link to it, and you'll be able to get it on your Kindle, and you can read it. And this one isn't too long either, which is the thing. A lot of fanfics, you know, they get kind of long, everybody, but this one's only, it fits into about like 250 pages or so. It's really good. So read this one, all right? Read it if you like arranged pairings and you like friends to lovers. And of course, if you just want to try a new pairing that maybe you haven't, I highly recommend. All right, just 2 more to go. Okay, we have another alien romance. I always got to recommend Viper by Naomi Lucas. I love it. Yes, you can buy this cover. It is available. She keeps these, what do we call these? I mean, it's basically a clinch cover for alien romance. And this is the first book in the Naga Brides. This was my first snake romance that I ever read. They're the Nagas. But there is a lot about them. So our heroine in this one, which I can't remember her name, Varushka is our Naga and Gemma is the heroine. And she actually is brought to Earth with a group of like scientists and people who are seeing if Earth is safe yet to live on or whatever. And there are all these Nagas who live there and they are looking for mates. And there have not been any female Nagas in years and years. And so when there are females in this, you know, group that come there, the Nagas literally start massing around the place and they're like, we're gonna give us the women, give us the women. And the researchers are so like intimidated by this that they're actually going to give the women over. They're going to do it because otherwise they're going to come for them. So they make an exchange with the men that will benefit everybody. They'll give them access to what they want if they give them the women. And so this is a fated mate situation though. So like there's pheromones involved. When they smell each other, she starts to become more attracted to him the more that she smells him. And these are very possessive alpha heroes, okay, very possessive. I recommend them of like, there's a lot of alien romance where the men are very sweet, you know, because the uglier they are, the sweeter they are. That's not quite the case with this one, but they are very attractive. Okay, they're very attractive. And they're all virgins because they've never had any women to be with. So there's that. And I just really like it. I love this series so much. My favorite one in the series, I think, is probably the 4th one, which is Boomslang. Or the 5th one is Boomslang. They're supposed, is it 4th or 5th? Yeah, Boomslang is like 5th in the series. And there's still supposed to be more coming. I think Copperhead is supposed to be next, and it did get pushed back. But there are 5 to read between here and then. I believe there's audios for them as well. So definitely check out the Snake Boys. They're hot. Okay, they're hot. They're hot. And then the last one I wanted to share, this is another throwback. I read this one quite a few years ago. And this one is A Place Without You by Julie Ann. This is a standalone. This is a forbidden romance. It's a student slash guidance counselor situation. Our heroine and hero meet in the summertime, and they actually both go to this music festival. Bodhi is his name, and her name is, I do not remember. It's been so long. And this is a single POV, so I actually don't know her name. I apologize. Do we say her name? Let me see. Henna is her name. That's why I can remember. It's her. Henna and Bodhi are their names. They meet at this music festival where he's actually, I believe, like bodyguarding or like being security. I think it's security, not bodyguarding at this. And she's there for this music festival. She is 18 and she does still have a year of school left because she missed out too much on her senior year. So she has to do it again. So when she goes to school, she's going to be 18 going into 19. And because of being held back, she needs to meet with her guidance counselor when she gets there. But anyway, at this music festival, they have this amazing chemistry. I believe they hook up. It is super hot between the two of them. It's amazing. And then they don't speak anymore. I think either someone loses the phone number or they don't even try. They know it's just supposed to be this magical like weekend or whatever. But when she goes to her new school and goes in to meet the guidance counselor, it's Bodhi, the man that they banged it out. So now we have this forbidden relationship between the two of them. So this one is very angsty. It definitely is. There is some mental health struggles in this one for sure. But I remember this being almost too angsty for Jenn to handle. We'll say that it was. But it was also just very powerful and beautiful, the relationship between these two. I loved it. And it's what kept me going even when it was a little more angsty than Jenn usually likes to deal with. So there's that. But anyway, sometimes fate is forbidden. So there you go. I love this. But yeah, A Place Without You. It's beautiful. So highly recommend. Oh, Bodhi does get a POV. Okay, this is dual POV. She just doesn't change POV all the time. So it isn't designated. So Bodhi and Henna in this one. So there you go, friends. Those are 10 random recommendations. Let me know if you have any recs that have to do with, like I said, like the bisexual awakening in the other direction, or, you know, any alien romance I should read, or just anything. Just give it to me. Either put it in the comments, or I do have my form down below if you want to recommend it there so that I don't lose it or anything. But thank you so much for watching, friends. It means the world to me that you stick it out with me, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!